Show me the money. Show me the money. Now, how do I make money? Last month, you made 35 lakhs at the age of 23. What were the 3 things that you got right that allowed you to be where you are today?
Because I saw far too many lazy people who were just flaunting their IIT tags. And I said, that is not me. You know, people my age fear losing their reputation when they have that. This is really important because most people, what they do is they would build a following. As soon as they see 100K, they launch their course. The problem with courses, it's a small number ball game. So instead of me selling courses to my audience, I built my audience and I have sold my whole social media as a case study to businesses and I've onboarded them as clients for my marketing agency. That makes sense? So I think that is the one secret for going to 100K on Instagram. But make sure that
you were 23 years old. You built a business with 25 people. You wrote 2 books, right? Even last month, I heard that you made 35 lakhs at the age of 23. When you look back, what were the 3 things that you got right that allowed you to be where you are today?
So basically, the thing that worked really well for me was my consistency. So I promised to myself that every 2 days, I'll make 1 YouTube video.
Wow.
Right? And that was 2020. There are 1,500 videos right now on my channel. And that is only possible because I just had this delusional conviction that I'll make it. And most people do not. Most people are too smart and then they doubt themselves too much. Right? And I've seen this time and time again, all the people I've met, they just have this delusional belief in themselves that they are the ones who will make it. So to everyone, when I meet them, I just tell them this one thing, that just, you have to shut off your brain, right? Your monkey brain is going to tell you 10 different things for why it's not going to work out, for why you're going to fail, for why you're going to embarrass everyone around you. But believe me, you just need to start and just stay in that lane and deliver, ship, build and ship, build and ship. Content, it could be your tools, anything that you're building, that you're working on. So I think the consistency is a big factor. The last one I want to touch upon, I think it has to be the fact that I was always learning. So what I realized was there are lots of creators who started when I started in 2020, but they always were limited to the niche in which they started with, right? Which is great. But then they ran out of ideas. Then they had nothing to make. And then they just stopped. Or they are just not growing as fast. Like, there are people who started with me at 0. They got to like 100K, 200K, 300K in terms of like following or any like material success that you want to compare it by. But I continued because I was not afraid of branching out to newer topics. So I trained myself and I learned things which I could then teach people in my channel, right? And I think that's so important. So many times we get stuck in just one niche. We become that coding guy or that sales guy. But you need to realize that you are so much more than just one dimension, right? So the sooner I realized that, I started branching out. I started with coding and freelancing, but then I quickly started talking more around video editing. And I basically had this one goal, which is to help people my age make a living doing what they love, right? So it could be anything from soft skills to hard skills, but I would help you learn that and make a living doing what is interesting you.
So it looks like you did 2 things. One was you were very clear about your purpose. You wanted to help people from your age to do what they love, what they want, right?
And monetize on that.
And monetize on that, yeah. But second, what I like is like you made a promise to yourself, which was a goal, which was, I'm going to make a video every 2 days, right?
Yep, exactly.
And that what allowed you to just say, you knew who you wanted to help, who you wanted to help, and also you just created a goal that you didn't think too much. Let's just do videos. And then you start learning, right? And you start becoming better, right? And that's where you started growing to where you are now, right?
Exactly.
And you were saying that at one point you were like trying to figure out how to get to 100K, right? That's what you said. A lot of our audience is like they have big dreams and they want to do big things, but somehow they're a bit stuck, or they try things but it's not working, and now they see social media or content creation as an opportunity. If there's someone who wants to has some social presence, but wants to go for 100K on social media, what is the first thing that you advise this person to do?
Yeah, for sure. So the way Instagram works, you have to understand the algorithm, right? So what I would tell you to do is, first of all, define yourself with 3 words. What are the 3 words that you want people to relate yourself with? Right? And you would notice this with any successful creator. There is this popular saying by Peter Thiel, which he says that all great startups are unique and all failed startups are the same. They fail to differentiate themselves. And I think that is so true for creators as well. All great creators are unique. And so you can tell the 3 words that they focus on. So what are those 3 words for you? Create a list of that, first of all. Once you have that list, start searching on Instagram search, the explore feed, just type that word. It could be spirituality, if you're the beer biceps type. It could be, motivation and entrepreneurship. So you can make a list of that word and search for that and see what are the top 20 pieces of reels about in that niche. It's a very scientific process. There's no hit or miss. There's no, luck involved. Obviously, there is luck involved, but it's not like a one-hit wonder, right? So you make an Excel sheet and you start writing everything down. And you will notice that there are certain things, ideas, audios, and formats which are working really well for people, right? So you have to research all of them. So you'll now have about 60 reels, right? 1 from each of those words. So 20 from each, so that'll be 60. So now you have 60 ideas. Now what you have to do is to take them in and start mixing them up with what you think is right? Put your own spin on that. The audio is really important because today, in the way Instagram algorithm works, the audio for the reel is really important. Like, I know I have used audios which are trending and they've worked so well for me. Like, instantly I would upload a reel and the next morning I'll check up, it's at 1 million views. And that's possible because, of course, I was able to deliver that content in that format which works. Plus, I was able to have that familiarity with that reel audio. So that's really important. So what you have to do is study all of these. You'll figure out there are certain formats which are working really well. Like last year, by the end of 2023, the format which is working really well was the 12-second reel format, in which you would first create curiosity in the minds of people, saying that, 2023, there are 30 days left. Here is how you can become the best version of yourself. And then it would have a beat drop, right, with the audio trending reel. And then you would have actionables. And you would tell people to read the caption at the very end, which would have a lot more information about it. People will click on the read more and they will keep reading. But in the background, the reel will keep playing. So to the algorithm, it basically looks like you've gone through the reel 5 times, 10 times. This must be a really good reel. Let's recommend it to more people, right? So that's how the algorithm works. So that was a very popular reel format. It doesn't work a lot today, but then there are other formats which work well, right? So you just have to study how it works. Every 2 to 3 months, the algorithm is going to change. The formats are going to be different. So you have to be able to dedicate, let's say, 30 minutes for the day just researching what works. And on that one Sunday, you can sit down, create a list of reels that you'll want to put out and just go ahead with that. So I think that is the one secret for going to 100K on Instagram, right? But make sure that you are focusing on creating something which generates emotion, right? So
tell me more about that.
So what I think works a lot is if you can tell people something in the start and then deliver on that, and that gets people emotional around their own journey or gets them excited, they would want to either like it or share it with people. And if you're being resourceful, you have to make sure that they save. So there are various factors on which Instagram checks if this reel is going to do well or not. There are likes, there are shares, there are obviously comments. People, say comment startup and I will send you this guide. That's another real trend which is going on right now. Was not existing last year, I think.
Exactly.
And then the recent trend is also of those text effects that you might have seen, bold text on the reels. So those are also effects. So you have to experiment. So make sure that you're uploading at least 3 to 4 times in a week, and then just go all in with that for 3 months. And if you're hitting the right things which work very well, you will succeed. So that's how it works.
Yeah, very cool. And what about like a bit more for personal branding? Because I think a lot of people, I mean, we all have a personal branding. We just are not in control of it, right? Okay, we start on Instagram. What's your advice to build a strong personal brand?
I think the secret to a strong personal brand is how good are you able to show who you are in the content that you put out, right? So that is what is really important. There are I told you all of these trends which work really well. But if you are just copying the trend without putting your own style into it, then you will get the views, but you won't get any follows, right? For example, I have made reels in which I've shown my own journey while I am following a trend, right? So I have shown that. For example, I was in US, right? So I had a wonderful trip. So I showed pictures and videos of that trip while writing over there. POV, you're in your 20s, traveling the world, making friends and memories. So it was that POV text, and it was just the yellow Coldplay music, and it was just pictures of videos of me, and then said read caption, and then it was like my own personal story of how I made here. Another reel which I did, which crossed 1.5 million views, was the one in which I came to US, right? So I said that worked really hard to now live the American dream, right? And then there was like read caption, and the caption had this really emotional paragraph which I wrote myself about how I went from a small town in Khandwa to where I am today, and how grateful I am for everything that I got. And so that builds that connection with people, so they actually know who you are. But ultimately, you have to understand that Instagram is not where you will build your actual brand, right? The reason I'm saying that is because I meet so many people, and they come up to me and they're like, I've seen you somewhere. I want to get a picture with you. So I do the picture, and then they go away. The second batch of people are the ones who come to me and they're like, Ishan, I love your videos. Let's get a picture together. Okay. And I do that. And so I know for a fact that these people who know me by name, they've actually seen my long form videos. So they understand who I am, and they have taken their intention is to actually watch that video. So this is intentionally watching my video instead of scrolling and then coming across my content. So that is a big difference you need to understand.
Wow, it's so good. So I have a couple of questions, but let's go back. So what you say for personal brand, first is you define the 3 words that you want to be remembered.
Associated
right?
with.
Associated.
Yep.
And you need to understand the algorithm and what is working on Instagram, let's say. But then you need to put yourself out there in a way that is, you are authentic, you share, but you make sure that you are aligned with the algorithm or the trends, right?
Exactly.
And now you mentioned something very interesting, which is you are going to connect deeper with your audience if you go for long form content and short form content. So for someone who's thinking, okay, started on Instagram, what are some ways to start long form content to build a deeper relationship with the audience?
Yeah, this is really cool because, YouTube is now favoring a lot of new channels, much more than they were doing before. So now you have an opportunity to start a channel in which you can create something and the first video can blow up, right? Which was not something which was possible before, like I'm talking 2020 and before that. But today, YouTube wants a lot of new creators to be surfacing in front of people. So the best thing you can do yourself is to again study, right? So go back to YouTube and start finding your 1 or 2 words and search for those words and find creators who are already creating content in that space. and then write it down. Write down every single major creator in that space and what type of content are they creating, and create various parameters, right? Are they creating a video which is more essay driven, or is it more of a podcast? Is it more of a monologue? What is the humor level on it, right? Some people are super humorous, some people are super serious. Both works, but you have to define where they are on that scale. So you find multiple of these parameters. What is the editing quality like? What type of hook do they have? Do they have something which is unique about them? What stands out for them the most? And you'll realize that this is why these creators are winning, right? So you can create. So for example, we do this thing for, let's say, you take example of documentary essay channels. So you have on one scale Dhruv Rathi, you have Think School, you have Mohak Mangal, you have Abhi and New as well, you have An Open Letter. So you have all of these creators who are creating amazing contents, and now you have to create a parameter on all of the scales which I just told you and just mark them. Where are they on that scale? And then once you've done that, then you have to figure out what can you start which would be completely original.
Oh, I see.
Right? So there could be a blue ocean in which there's no one creating raw content which is not well edited but is humorous about something in this documentary space. And that could be your USP. So now you know that, okay, this is what no one is doing. So maybe if I do this, and if I do this well enough, this can actually work for me.
Yeah, and what I like what you said is about understand what is already there in the market, right? And then try to find something which is unique, where you can stand out.
Exactly.
Right? And then you show yourself authentic, and you create content there, and you try to stand out in a very crowded
exactly. Like for example,
market.
I was in US, right? And I made plenty of US reels, and I realized that there's no 20-year-old Indian who has gone to US and is actually sharing what is happening in US in the business angle.
Okay, yeah.
So I just went there, right? And I just talked about things which I found interesting. So I talked about the most iconic fashion brand in US. I talked about the World Trade Center, the unfortunate 9/11 attacks. I talked about all of these things, and they're working really well, right? I stood in front of the Steve Jobs garage, and I just made a reel about how Apple was started in this garage, right beside me. I went to the Apple Park, and I just made a reel standing there talking about the Apple Park in itself and how amazing the whole structure is and how it was built from scratch. So I just did these things which I felt no one else was doing, right? I was standing in front of the iconic Apple store in 5th Avenue, New York, and I just made a reel about it while standing there. So it's all of these unique experiences that you can bring to people. And because there's no one doing that in the way you are doing it, you will stand out, right? So then your content would stand out from everyone else. Everyone else is sitting in the studio, which looks really good, by the way, and talking about Apple and how they've built this, what is the business model like. You're actually standing there in front of the Apple store and talking about it, right? So isn't that cool? So you just find out stuff like that.
I think it's very interesting. Maybe you can help us to break down what your thought process on how you prepare this trip to the US to get to this unique content that you knew it was going to work well in your channel.
Yeah, so I decided to go to the US by June starting. So I thought I'll go in July, but that got delayed until August. And I had this dream. I did not know if it would be possible, but I just put out an Excel sheet and I wrote down the names of everyone that I would want to meet. Super ambitious. I want to interview Mark Zuckerberg. I want to interview Bill Gates. I want to, meet XYZ people. I want to meet David Goggins and shoot a podcast with him. So I had these dreams, right? So, and then I sat with my manager and we found out their emails. We found out how can we contact them? Did we contact them? So there was a way for us to track the progress on each of these people and how can we meet them. We did all of that, and that was the bit where I reached out to people. So I used to send, I would sit down for the whole evening for like 5-6 hours and I would just send emails. So I would just sit and just email people, reply back to them, email again. I wanted to work with an airline for this trip because why not? Right? It's my first time flying this far away from my home. Might as well work with the airline. I always wanted to work with the airline, but couldn't do it till now. So I reached out. Right? I said that I am on this trip to meet founders. close deals for my company, and just explore. And so would love to collaborate with you if you would want to be featured in this whole journey, which I would put out on social media. And so they replied back, and then we made it happen.
Really good. So now let's go to the where you already mentioned about, okay, so you have your personal brand, you start doing short form content, which allows you to spread and to reach more people. Then you do your long form content, which allows you to go deeper with your audience. Now you have your audience, but that's your audience. How do you transform your audience into a community?
So I feel like that depends on the content you're creating and the depth of the content. So there's a funnel. Think of it like a funnel. In marketing, you're told to have this funnel in which you have top of the funnel, you have bottom of the funnel, and then you have in the middle of the funnel. So your focus is first of all to create something which attracts top of the funnel people, which is your lead magnets. Right? So you advertise for people to download this report, check out this free ebook, and that's when you get their email address. Then you get them more involved, right, into more smaller ticket workshops and all, and then you get them more involved for the high ticket program that you actually sell. So that's what the typical model is of selling online courses and online materials. But the way you would turn them into a community is by actually meeting them in person, first of all, number one. Number two, you would build that by knowing that, some piece of content, will not do well by the numbers, but will create massive respect in minds of people who actually follow you. So, for example, I met Chris Du. Chris Du is this person who I've learned a lot about design, branding, one-person business. Again, 2019, he's just as influential in my life as Gary Vee. And I met him in Los Angeles. He came to my hotel, we shot a podcast. And I knew that this will not be a massy podcast, because not everyone knows Chris Du, because he's not your typical creator. But the people who did loved listening him on my podcast, right? And so that created that closeness, or that, people now knew that, okay, Ishan is actually coming out with interesting content pieces, and he's going out of his way to actually travel to places which we have not seen so far. So I think that is really important. I have done so many meetups with my audiences in the top 3-4 cities. I've done one in Hyderabad, I've done one in Bangalore, done multiple in Mumbai, done one in Delhi as well. And so I get to meet hundreds of students, of founders, of marketing agency owners, of people who are dropouts like me. And so that develops a deeper connection with my people, because I spend at least 3-4 hours in every meetup and I talk to every single person. And I think this is something which I learned from the biggest actors out there, right? I was watching this podcast of Shah Rukh Khan, and Shah Rukh Khan is this one person who everyone knows, right? Like I was talking to drivers in US, and they were like, "Oh, you're from India, you must watch Bollywood movies." I was like, "Yeah, I did watch a couple of them." So he was like, "Do you know Shah Rukh Khan?" So
you say, "It's my friend."
Yeah, exactly. So huge. He's like the most well-known like Indian, I would say, among other people. But what he is amazing at doing is that whenever like you would meet him, like I've heard so many stories of people trying to like meet him, like a fan moment. He always responds to you and spends time with you. And so in that podcast, the podcaster asked that how do you do all this? So he said that I am a slave to the myth called Shah Rukh, right? Which basically means that I might be having the worst moment in my life, and if I am in a public place, and if someone comes up to me and says that, "Shah Rukh, I love your movies, let's get a picture," you have to put on that Shah Rukh jolly face which they have seen in the movies, right? The Rahul or that, naam to suna hi hoga. All of that stuff, they have to put that face on. And so that is so cool. That is so interesting, because you can never let them have a negative experience, because if they do, negativity spreads 10 times as fast as positivity. So whenever I meet people who have watched my videos, I try to spend as much time as possible with them. Like that one-on-one connection, like actually asking questions, me helping them out with whatever they're struggling with. And sometimes they just need to actually meet you in person for them to feel amazing about their day.
So that's how you started building deeper connections with your audience, and also you started to better understand them.
Yep.
Because they come to you, they come with questions, they come with problems and struggles. Also, it's also a way for you to get more content out of your audience.
Yeah, yeah.
Very cool. Oh, and I love what you said about Shah Rukh Khan, and I really like that because it's like, I mean, you don't complain. You need to respect your audience. So if you are with your audience, you are there. Like, build this connection with your audience.
That is powerful.
That is very, 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 very powerful. Okay, so now we have an audience. Now show me the money. Show me the money. Now, how do I make money? Like, I wanna. Okay, I have you already told us how to reach 100K, let's say, followers. Now, let's say I want to start making money. How do I monetize my audience?
So there are so many ways to do it. The way I do it is this is the most unoptimized way, because the thing is, because I realized this very early. The fact was that most people who follow me are just starting out in their career. They're people just like me, and so I wouldn't pay for anything, right? And so I just felt that the best thing I can do is to make my content available to everyone as much as possible. And I learned this from a mentor of mine who I met in my US trip. This is Quincy Larson, who he built this huge online coding community called as Free Code Camp, right? And I have massive respect for him, and he built it as a charity. It is a charitable organization. He doesn't make a single penny. He gets donations, obviously, which is why he's able to run it for so many years. It's been more than 10 years or something that they've been running it. Now, the best thing that you can do for your audience is to share the content as much as possible and build that community, right? And then the way to monetize is, of course, with AdSense on, if you're doing YouTube, which is what everyone gets, your brand deals, which is what I have done. Courses, which I don't do because I put everything out for free. So I literally have 40-50 minute videos in which I am breaking down everything that there is about video editing, about graphic design, about XYZ content. And so this is really important because most people, what they do is they would build a following, and as soon as they see 100K, they'll launch their course. Right now, the problem with courses is that it's a small number ball game. I'll put it that way. There are so many people who are doing courses. Yeah. Of course, there are people who are doing it amazingly well, like Ankur Bariku.
Yeah.
But for majority of creators who are creating courses, it's a good way to make quick money, but it also sort of erodes trust of many of your viewers who were learning from you before, but now you have this gated community for which you charge people. So now they would be like, am I going to get substandard content from you? Because you're not going to give the best out for free, right? So for me, that doesn't work as much. I just put everything out for free for people. And I focused on building something which is long-term, which is my own company. So instead of me selling courses to my audience, I built my audience and I have sold my whole social media as a case study to businesses, and I've onboarded them as clients for my marketing agency. That makes sense?
Oh.
Yep. So I said...
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
So I would have multiple companies reaching out to me wanting to promote their product on my channel, and I would say that a better thing that we can do is to build your own YouTube channel, and let me help you out with that.
Oh, I see.
So again, it's a very different ball game.
Yeah.
Not every creator can do this, but it worked out for me really well because I had, again, my co-founder, Saransh, and was able to build a team of people who are obsessed and people who genuinely love creative expression, right? Because ultimately, YouTube is all about that. how can you communicate your idea in the most creative way possible that is different and that builds a community. So that is how I would like to think of it. And this is good because now I have recurring business, right? So I have 10 to 15 clients who pay X $1,000 every month. And so now I have a good business which is working alongside my content business and which will continue to work as long as we deliver. Even if some people on my channel decide to not watch my content because they have aged now, they've gotten a job, or they have matured from that phase and now they're on to their next phase. So whatever that is, but I think this is how I have monetized, if you would like to call it that way, my social media. Yeah.
What are new ways that?
But the thing is, people don't understand that for some reason. They think that I have some secret course which I'm gonna come out with. They're like, oh, he's just building his audience now. The course is gonna come out in a few months, which is funny because I've always told people that I'm gonna continue to put out good content for free, right? I actually invest lakhs of rupees in doing these roundtable podcasts around the country. So I've done these. If you've seen, I did this roundtable podcast with Ashneer Grover, Sanjeev Bikhchandani, Ashish Mohapatra, and Sarthak Ahuja. And that was a huge podcast that I organized. There was a 10 people crew behind the cameras, 7 cameras, there was 5 mics. We tried the best to bring out the best content piece possible for 0 rupees. And people still think that I'm going to come out with some course. So I just want to put it out that I have nothing to sell you. I have 2 books that come out, which my publisher sells. So that's how it is.
So in a nutshell, like how do you split today your revenue? What are your different sources, all your different sources of revenue today?
Yeah, it is AdSense on YouTube. It is brand deals. Brands who I generally know are wonderful and I would love to work with them to share what they've built with my audience. So that is the second one. The third one is there are some affiliate commission, which is mostly a rounding error compared to like the other sources, but that is there. What else? Book sales, obviously it's called Unlocking Unicorn Secrets, sold at 10,000 copies. It was launched last year, became an Amazon bestseller. Penguin was a publisher, but then it is my agency, right? So I share 50-50 revenue, 50-50 share with my co-founder Saransh, and that's how we do it.
Okay, cool. So now we have more idea about how to monetize our audience or to create a living as a content creation.
Yeah.
Like something that I see a lot of people stuck is with imposter syndrome. You know, oh, am I good enough, or the camera, or like, what is your advice for people to break that barrier and just to show up authentically and succeed on social media?
You know, people my age fear losing their reputation when they have none. Right? So it's a quote from Kunal Shah, and I love that because when you're starting out, you have no reputation, right? Like, what are you afraid about? Like,
too good.
You know, smarty pants, and is gonna see you and comment, oh, look at that pimple on your face. So what are you afraid about? I think people, as I said before, you think too much. You need to dial down that monkey brain of yours and just do it, right? Done is better than perfect. Most people fail to realize this and they are stuck with their own mindset and their own things. If I'll do this, then what will they say? But the reality is there is no they. There is no they. They don't exist, right? I've always been a kid with no friends. Because I've traveled so many cities, it was difficult for me to create
I'm your friend,
friendship.
By the way, I'm your friend. It's okay.
Of course. But because of that, I would sit in my pajamas in my room in Pune when I started building this audience. I could see 300,000 people, right, subscribe to my channel. But 300,000 people, I have no clue what that means. Right? 300,000 people, that is going to fill stadiums, right? And that is insane. But because I've never had people, I couldn't understand the power of that. right? So I think that's what it was for me. But I would just tell anyone who's watching this that, you might think that what you have, like your talent or your skill, is obvious, like everyone knows about it. But believe me when I say, what's obvious to you is amazing to others, right? So this is so important to understand. People ask me all the time, like, how are you able to communicate so well? Like people my age. And I just made a video about communication and it got 400,000 views. And I had people in the comment section literally learning so much. And I thought this was just conventional wisdom, right? Like, why wouldn't you know this? Why wouldn't you know how to take a pause? Why wouldn't you know how to articulate in your mind before saying it in your lips? So, but these are things that people do not know, and now they do from my video. So I think just creating stuff for your younger self is a powerful way to get started.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I just made stuff for my 15-year-old self.
Yeah.
And today, like the US trip was sort of like fulfilling dreams of my 15-year-old self. The last month was basically that. So yeah.
It is so good. And to be honest, I was there. I also, like in the past, I used to think like that. But it's whatever I did or I need to teach. This is obvious. But there's someone at some point of his or her life that might learn something. So that was huge also for me, just to think like, just show up, share what you've learned. It will impact someone.
Yep, absolutely.
Very good. And I think something also, another challenge that or fear that content creators have, it's about the negative comments. Like how do you handle trolls or negative comments?
So I think I've faced this a lot. Like when I first started, I just to this point I've just like learned how to like ignore it and build a thick skin.
Okay.
I think for most people it comes from people who you've never seen in reality. So my craziest experience was when I talked about the tipping culture in US, and I made a tweet about that, and I just asked a genuine question, that why does this exist? Obviously, there was a sense of irritability because I had a negative experience, so what do you expect? But the type of comments I got when I asked for a question and I wanted an answer, all I got was racism.
Wow.
Every single comment in that tweet, you can go and watch right now, 52 million views on that tweet, and it was trending on Twitter. Pretty much everyone saw it on that day, and all I got were hateful comments, the worst kind of hate that you can get from random people who I've never seen in person. I got that in the replies, I got that in my DMs, and I just felt bad for everyone. I was like, so you are in a part of your life where all you can do is to put someone down that you don't even know on the internet, behind a screen, just typing like an unknown, anon, and is this all that is that to your life, right? So I just felt bad for everyone who was commenting over there. People ask me, have I faced racism? The only racism I faced was online on US, Twitter. So that's it. That was the most hateful time that I've experienced as a creator. And this is like, you would refresh, I'll show it to you in my DMs, and you would see a hateful DM every minute. And the worst kind of slurs that you wouldn't even imagine. I've seen that, and I just felt bad. I think many people are afraid of content creation because they don't know what might happen or what messages they might get. But it's so much important to understand that this hate doesn't exist in real life. I've never met a single person in my real life, and I've done multiple events. I have met thousands of people in India and abroad, and I've never met a hateful person, right? This hate only comes from people who you've never heard of, and then you feel bad about yourself because of opinion of someone that you've never seen in reality. So the way I think of it is, And a comment or opinion would only matter to me if it is coming from someone who I want to be. Right? If you don't want to be like them, don't listen what they have to say. That's so simple. Yet most of us struggle from it. So a random person is going to tell you how bad you are or whatever there is. But who are they? Why does their opinion matter? Right? Of course, there are people who I respect a lot and who have given me feedback on what to do and what not to do. Their opinion matters.
Yeah.
I call them up and I ask them that, tell me more about this. I would like to improve. I would like to learn. I'm open to feedback. So you have to cut out the noise from the actual feedback and focus on people who can genuinely, who want the best for you. And that's why they are actually messaging you and calling you. That's genuine criticism. And I think the more content you put, the more mature you get with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I like also about you, on top of that, what you say, is that, of course, you learn to separate also what is a comment that can help you to progress, or what is just, someone there in their phone just feeling sad about life and just commenting.
Exactly. I think you need to realize that if you're getting those hateful comments, you're definitely doing something right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just tweeted yesterday that you're only remembered for the rules you break. You will only be remembered for the rules you break. And the best thing you can do is to develop a cult following. And the way you do that is by having a strong opinion about something. Right? So what I have done, what I stand for is skills over degrees. And that is like my motto. I meet so many of my people who watch my videos and they say that, I'm not from a college, which looks great and which parents feel proud talking about. But I am working really hard on my skills. And I say that is really important. That is more important than the college that you're from. My goal when I got into BITS was to build something so that people recognize me from my work and not from my college. Because I saw far too many lazy people who were just flaunting their IIT tags. And I said, that is not me.
Maybe now, to finalize this topic about content creation, maybe what was the biggest mistake that you made in your career as a content creator? Yeah,
I feel like I followed behind numbers too much, like on Instagram. And today I have about 873K followers on Instagram. If I could go back, I would be more happy with having 400K people. Like half of that number, but like people who genuinely want what I have to offer them. But because I made a massive piece of content and that got 20 million views, I now have random people who followed me, but they don't really know what my mission is. And so then you see people saying that now you're going to sell a course because they don't know who I am. But if I could go back, I would definitely optimize more for respect and not as much for views. Because respect from the right people is more important, right? And that is what I learned from a friend of mine. He said that you should optimize for getting respect from the smartest people out there. And so if the smartest people, like I was creating content which was gaining interest of someone from a tier 3, tier 4 college in India. And he came to me and he was like, Ishan, create something that a student in MIT would watch and be amazed, will be mind blown. And if you can do that, then you practically won. which is a great perspective. Yeah. So now every piece of my content has that in perspective. That how can I teach a lesson in business or in marketing to people who are interested to grow and level up in their career. And that has been the goal from all of my reels, right? Everywhere I go, I just make that reel. Whether it is all the US content I made. Before that, I was in Singapore, so I made Singapore content. Before that, I was in Japan, so I made Japan content. So instead of making those travel reels, I switched to making more business-oriented reels about that city, that culture, that vibe that people have over there.
Cool. Okay, so something that I really like, what you said was don't follow blindly numbers.
Yep.
Right? So that was a big advice. So it's important to have the right mindset while creating content. What is the right mindset for a content creator?
I think you need to create content starting from one platform, have a very specific niche and just create content on that. And let's say it should be about 70% top of the funnel and then bottom funnel content 30%. And just make sure that you stand out with the thing that I just told you, find out your blue ocean by studying every creator in that space and just stay relevant. That is it. Stay consistent, keep experimenting, but also don't be afraid of learning things from other people, right? Like there's a term called hate scroll. People are hatefully scrolling on you, on your content. I think it's so much important to learn from other people and from their successes and their failures. So I am always meeting creators, right? Like in fact, even after this, I'm going to go meet a friend of mine and then I'll meet one more friend. So it's all about learning from others. Don't ever feel weird reaching out to someone that you admire, right? I feel that most people feel jealous in some sense, but you have to understand world is abundant, right? Like no one is stealing from you.
Exactly, yeah.
So learn to share what your learnings are, and you will be amazed by how much people share. I have shared everything that I've learned. I have no secrets. So that's what I think is really important as a creator.
Super good. Super good. Okay, so now we're coming to the end. I think it would be nice to learn a little bit more about your US experience because it was, I mean, you spent there 45 days. Like, what was the most surprising thing for you in this trip to the US?
I think the biggest surprise was how warm everyone is. I was fortunate enough to have some of the sweetest people ever. I went to New York. I met this person who I knew from before, but I really got to develop that connection with him right now when I was there. And he was super sweet. He was like, come stay at my place and we'll go together to wherever you want to go. And that was super amazing. I didn't really know that people would be so welcoming, especially when you don't know them from before, like you don't properly know them. I went to San Francisco. I met amazing people over there. They're like, come crash at our place. We'll show you around. These are people who are working at like Google, Meta, and Apple, and they would actually take the whole day off. They're like, I want to show you around. Wow. And so I think I was really fortunate to have found these people, and without them, my trip wouldn't be nearly as amazing as it looked on social media. So all those reels you see, there's someone actually behind the camera actually holding the camera. So super grateful for having all those people.
And in this trip to the US, what is one idea that you learned there that you want to implement now in India?
There are so many ideas. I was in my flight and I was just writing down everything that I have learned.
What is the most important idea?
I think I used to be the person who would just work all day long and just have a really unhealthy life in India. But once I spent time over there, I realized that people are doing just as much by working so many fewer hours. And they genuinely have a life outside, right? So I feel like people in US work to live and people in India live to work. And that was the most interesting thing. Like I would see people in the weekend, they would just not talk on like emails and all, right? They would be out of office or like they'll take one day off, long vacation, they'd go somewhere. And people would genuinely have hobbies outside of work. Like someone is going hiking, someone is going for a run, someone is learning bachata. So it was just really cool to see all these people developing and having that all-rounder personality outside of just the work that you're doing. And that was really cool. So that's something that I want to work on. I would be super anxious about everything when I was like here, spent 45 days there. Now I'm a lot more calmer about my work. I was like, I'll get where I want to be, and like being anxious doesn't help me get there faster, right? So I think that's like the biggest learning I had from living over there, spending the time with people who I met. Wow. And also I just learned to think outside of the box. There are literally people who are building humanoid robots in the Bay Area for your home chores.
Wow.
Right? You want to put your clothes for laundry, you want your utensils to be washed and kept at the right place. They're actually building humanoid robots for that. And I visited their office. I spent time with the actual robot, and the robot was super friendly. Of course, it's in the very development stage right now, but this is something which I wouldn't really imagine sitting in Bangalore.
Yeah.
And it's only when you go outside and you meet these people and you visit the office and you interact with what they're building is when you realize that there's so much more to be built. So we all have these echo chambers. Like Bangalore has like a specific set of things which work in all the startups over there. So it's limited to that. You know, again, Delhi has a different vibe. Mumbai has a different vibe. But I think it's worthwhile traveling to different locations and just seeing what is working outside. It opens up your mind a lot to opportunities, to possibilities, to just new perspectives in life, right? Like for example, like my friend the other day was like, what are we doing today? Like, what is the plan for today? Like, do you have like a hour by hour plan for what are we traveling and who are we meeting today? I said, I don't. You don't need to, right? You can just sit and people watch. And he was like, that's a good idea. Let's do that. So we just sat on the chair. It was a weekend, so we had all sorts of people like with their dogs. People are fishing. People are like gardening and stuff. And we just sat and saw people, watched people. That was the evening. 2 hours, 3 hours spent like that. Right? So we're not like, obviously there is a thing in the back of my head which is counting all the places that you visited, all the things that you could not do, the check boxes you did not were not able to go to. But it's also amazing to just do nothing and just sit. And we did that day.
So I think it was a really, really important trip for you, right? I think
it was.
A lot of things happened, and I followed, and yeah.
I'm gonna keep going back. Next month I'm again gonna be back there.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've just realized, like, before I used to think that it's going to be a big expense, like what am I going to get? I see all of these negative news about what is happening in US. Of course, I saw that. I saw all the gun shootings. I saw everything in front of me. I saw all of that happening.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell
like
them what
in front of my hotel in San Francisco. On the second day when I was in America, I saw blood on the streets. I saw gunshot. Someone got shot in the leg in front of my hotel next to Tenderloin in San Francisco. Have you been to San Francisco?
No, not San Francisco.
Just you should. US, you should visit. The moment I stepped out of the metro, I smelled two things. It smelled like piss and it smelled like weed. I didn't even know what weed smelled like until I was on the street. And my friend was like, "This is called ganja." I was like, "What?"
That's why you were more happier in the US, right? Than you were there.
Nah, I think there's a big homeless problem.
Yeah.
The homeless situation in San Francisco is insane. After 7 p.m., you just cannot roam around the streets. You'll see like groups of these people who are like mentally disabled. They're not able to walk properly. They're like, they just feel like a zombie. It's like a zombie land. It looks exactly like the movies that you've seen. And anything can go wrong. So you better not stay in that area. Obviously, there are safer places in San Francisco as well. But like, I didn't expect that. But that doesn't mean that I will not come back again. Because there are so many good things about California in general, right? About New York as well. So I think people should know about it. Like, I put this on a story that this happened. 2 lakh people saw my story.
Wow. 2 lakh people.
Yeah, it was basically a picture of street and blood on the street. There were all of these cars at 12 o'clock, like of the police cars, and they've put that yellow sticker, SFPD, and they covered that whole crime scene.
Wow.
But it was pretty crazy. The next morning, there was someone who was like washing away all the blood from the street, and my other friend who slept, he came outside, he was asking them, what is this? And they're like, nothing, this is just some dirt that we're cleaning off. But this is insane. Like, you would never expect that. I never heard a gunshot in India, like physically in real life.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Wow.
Been through a lot. I saw so many things. I've seen everything, I think, every color of US.
Wow. So you had a lot of experience there in the US. Very cool. Okay, last question. Maybe you can share for our audience, like the ones that are they're thinking if I should do something, but I'm afraid of jumping, you know. What is your advice for them in order to have the courage to move towards what they really want?
I think you should not jump. Don't jump, but just do it as a side project.
Okay.
Right? Like you should have like side quests that you're working on every day. Like if your life is a game, you should have those side quests. So it could be as simple as just focusing on making one YouTube video in a week that you're working on every day. So let's say you put like 1 hour every day, and I think you can take out 1 hour. Not to the Mumbai people, they are stuck in traffic, so we can't count that. But most people in India, they would be able to take out 1 hour and focus on just creating like something that you yourself would be proud of. Being put on a cinema and shown to everyone around the world. So if you're proud of it, then just go at it. Don't worry about like the numbers in the starting, because anyways, no one is going to watch in the start.
You don't have reputation, right?
You don't have reputation. So just post. No one is watching. And you will be amazed by how supportive people are. There are good people as well. Of course, there is a lot of negativity, but there will always be 100 supporters and one negative person. But you will always outweigh the negativity of that one person compared to the positivity of 100 more. That's just how the human brain thinks. But the more you work on it, the better you get as a creator.
I love that advice. I think a lot of people make it like, making such a big deal, it's such a big jump. No, you don't have to. What if you start, whatever you're doing now, if you start doing small things on the side that you enjoy, you start creating, and then see where it goes and you explore, right?
Identify yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So instead of saying that I will become a full-time creator, like if you were before an engineer, it could be like, I am a Google engineer who creates content on lifestyle in New York. That's it. That's just it. That's who I am. And so that's better and is easier to do than saying that I'm going to be a full-time lifestyle creator in New York.
So good. Okay, cool. It was so good, the conversation. I really admire.
Thank you.
I really admire one. I mean, your courage, also your curiosity, and how you just keep pushing and doing bigger things. So it was a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much,
and
Rodrigo.
All the best for your next project.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was lovely talking to you.